We are live, Sam. We are live. Welcome, everybody. If you're here already, fantastic. If you're not, I'm going to give it 30 seconds, a minute for people to join. But in the meanwhile, Sam, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, it's that awkward start to a live, isn't it? How quick do you get into it?
Exactly. You'll give people a little bit of a chance to get here. And I'm so used to just kind of rambling on for a minute just to kill a little bit of time. But if I throw you under the bus with me, I don't feel as awkward.
That's what I'm here for. You just do that.
Exactly. And look, I'm still shocked. You just told me you've got no heating in your house, and I can see you're in a jumper. I can tell you're ex-military because you're hard and you can deal with it.
I'd considered doing a t-shirt, and then I thought, no, I'm just going to get uncomfortable. I'm getting older. I do like me comfort, so the jumper's on.
Yeah, I can imagine shorts and flip-flops are still on though, right?
I'm all about the Crocs now.
How are you?
Never thought I'd be that guy, but I'm all about the Crocs now, yeah.
This happened, finally happened.
Yeah.
But mate, look, I'm really excited for this conversation. And for everybody who's listening, it's going to be a really good conversation around self-awareness, mindsets, identities, purpose, and just a little bit of your journey and the learnings you've got from this journey. I think there's going to be a bunch of useful knowledge for people and organizations to take away, which I think, it's the reason why I'm excited to get you on here, Sam.
I really appreciate being here. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, wicked. Thank you. Look, before I throw the mic over to you, I'm just going to give a quick introduction to people so people know who I am. My name's Rich. I'm a high performance coach. I help leaders, new managers improve how they're kind of creating high performing teams. We do that through a few different modalities: coaching, group coaching, and that supports in putting together leadership and capabilities. I own two businesses. Employee Self is one, LP Revolution is the other. One's Wellbeing, one's performance, and it's just helping organizations create high performing places of work. If you want to know more about those, let me know. I won't give you a sales pitch today. That's me done, Sam. Over to you. Rather than me butchering your introduction like I just done to my own, let me throw the mic over to you and say, Sam, could you introduce yourself? Tell me who you are, what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Sam. I'm founder, owner of Laird Co. So I predominantly, I'm in the wellbeing sector. I facilitate wellbeing talks, check-in sessions with organizations, sports teams. I used to do a lot of one-to-one work. I've kind of moved to mainly group work now. So a little bit deeper background into me. I was in the Royal Marines for 13 years and did multiple combat tours with those, and then left there. And I kind of I went into the kind of PT industry, gone into the mentoring industry, worked alongside some high profile people in that, and then set up my own stuff. And I'm really passionate about what I do. I am faith led, so I'm a Christian. I'm an elder at my local church. Got over about 500 people. I'm married. We have 5 children between us. It's a unique marriage. My wife lives in Canada. I live in England right now. But I think that's really good because we get to action what I talk about. You know, a lot of the work that you do, I do. We talk about the importance of communication. So I have to live what I preach, or it would all fall down. So that's a little bit about me, I guess.
Yeah, and as a brief introduction as well, because I know your journey is a bit longer than that. And I smiled when you said married because I know it's recently married, and I love the fact that is the case. But can we dive deeper into this journey? Because I know obviously Marine for 13 years, touring, having the challenges there, and then coming out of that, going into the wellbeing PT lifestyle space, working with a couple of really great people in a couple of different ways, and then into doing it for yourself and creating this life that you have now, and then faith come into it. It'd be really great to kind of understand that journey. And then, you understand that journey. And then kind of for me, I know faith's a big part of this. And so when did faith come into it, and how has that changed your journey?
Yeah, so that changed my journey massively. So I guess if we go back to the start, then how I ended up in the military, how I left, I guess we could talk a little bit about identity, and then faith can come into that. So I guess going back, I signed up for the Royal Marines at 16, and it was mainly down to a guy called John Henry Manuel, who was like a father figure to me. I have a father, by the way, but he was a guy I really looked up to. Me and my best friend both did, actually. He was a black belt in judo. He was a Royal Marines Commando, and he used to come into the judo club every Friday and just oozed enthusiasm. And we both we want to be like that guy. So we chased him for our black belts. We both achieved our black belts. I got mine when I was 18. I can't remember when Chris got his. And then I signed up for the Royal Marines. I started training at 17 years old, one of 60 people on the start line. Once you go through all the processes to get to the start line, I was one of 11 people to finish that as an original. And then I went on to 4-5 Commando, and I was on operational tours within a matter of a few months. My first tour was Northern Ireland. And then obviously Afghanistan conflict kicked off, and that was much of my career going back and forward to Afghanistan. Sadly, on my second tour, John passed away. We actually ended up serving in the same company. Both myself, John, who got me to join the Marines, and my mate Chris, who he also had inspired, we somehow ended up in the same company, which is around 100 people, in the same forward operating base in Afghanistan. And sadly, he lost his life, and among other men that day. And that was a pivotal time for me, because I'd realized that I'd been following this guy. I'd been following his footsteps. He'd inspired me. But when he passed away, I was like, hold on, who am I? Why am I here? Who am I going to follow now? Who is my influence now? So I asked some really kind of difficult questions. And then on top of that, unfortunately, watching people pass away, I kind of had this question of, where have they gone? Like, what's this life all about? And I started asking these deeper questions, and that began a journey for me, and started searching. But I definitely wasn't ready yet to change my lifestyle. And I came back and kind of cracked on my life, went back out again to Afghanistan. And then when Afghanistan finished, I got back, and I just really started to lose a sense of purpose. Didn't enjoy the military as much. My marriage at the time was not healthy, and that was coming to an end, and I just needed a change of direction. And I began to search, and that's when I started to search Christianity and found my faith. It was when I made the decision to leave the Royal Marines, which takes 12 months process. I then moved to Chorley, which is because my daughter lived here, but I didn't know anyone in Chorley. So I went from my whole adult life in the military, from 17 to 30, living with a bunch of men for my whole life, to all of a sudden I was in this 1-bedroom flat with my daughter, not knowing anyone, starting life again, asking myself, who am I? While changing my lifestyle, and because I'd started really searching my faith, and it was a struggle. It was a hard process to go through. Many people go through that process, this kind of identity crisis, so you come to the end of your career and it's like, what next? I found it specifically working with athletes and sports teams is, they retire very young, but they've devoted their whole childhood, young adult life into it. And then it's, hold on, who am I? Where do I go from here? And the military is no exception to that. They require all of you while you're in it. It's not a job. It is a lifestyle. I'm grateful for so many things from the military. However, my values are so different now from maybe what they were in the military that, I would live a very different lifestyle now to what I did in the military. And then, so that led me down this journey, and it wasn't an easy journey, ups and downs. But when I really got rooted in my faith and found out who I was and my identity, then I found that to be a real game changer. And I think that's what's really led me to starting a business that helps people really build their self-awareness and look at who they are, and also have compassion for other people. Like, we're all on this journey of life. No one's at the end point of working it all out. We all have struggles. We all have ups and downs in life. Like, I'm not unique in the struggles I've been through hardships. So is everyone. But it's really important that we recognize that we've all been through hardships, but also there's so much to be grateful for. And just helping one another kind of see the beauty in life, have gratitude, and just have a compassion for one another. And I feel like when you get people together in a room and you facilitate conversation in that and get them to open up about maybe some struggles they're going through, or things they're really grateful for, or things that they do to help them have a better day. And then when everyone opens up that conversation, that's where change happens. Because like, oh, I never saw that myself, or that's a really good idea, I'll try that. And I've really found that to be a real blessing to get a chance to do that. So again, kind of whistle stop tour there, but yeah, so it's a little bit about my journey.
You mentioned there about being able to open up and talk about it. In your journey, did you have somebody who could help you do that? I'm just listening to that kind of the challenge, obviously leaving the military, struggling with identity, finding faith, not maybe having a period there where you didn't really buy in to it as much as where you are now. Did you have somebody there to help you? And what was that? What got you through that period?
It's a really good question. I would say I made the novice mistake of isolating when I left the military. Didn't open up. And, you know, you see this when people are struggling, they isolate. And I always say, what's the worst punishment you can get in prison? And it's not to put you in a cell with another criminal. It's to put you in isolation. It's the worst thing we can do. And we tend to do that to ourselves. And I did that for a long time and struggled. Where I kind of was blessed. One, I think my faith helped me. Also, at the time, a man called Jamie Sanderson. He runs Rock to Recovery alongside Jason Fox. He reached out to me. Basically, he knew I was struggling, and he kind of gave me an ultimatum to like go and seek help. And so that's what I did. I did go and seek help. I would say at the time when I sought help through his charity Rock to Recovery, and I also got some help from another one, which was I think it's Forces for Horses, or Horses for Forces, probably, with some therapy with horses. At the time, I wasn't ready to change, and that was another thing that I've been able to reflect back on. So I was getting taught the tools to change, and I was talking about stuff, but I wasn't ready to change, and that was a big game changer for me. Rock to Recovery, they had I think he still works, some guy called Malcolm, really great man, and I went through some sessions with him. And at the end, he said to me, I'm going to ask you a question. It sounds stupid, but I want you to think about your answer. And he said, do you actually want to change? And I thought, that is a stupid question. I've just sat here for 3 hours. I think I was actually there for 6 hours. I think I did a 3-hour session. And then I went in and had another 3-hour session with him. And I thought, I'm here. Like, of course I want to change. But actually, when I reflected on the answer, what he was getting at the time, I drank alcohol. And alcohol in the military is a coping strategy. We use it to celebrate. We use it to mourn. I would say a lot of military people build an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I kind of have a zero tolerance with alcohol now. I'm happy to discuss that. But I quit alcohol 6 years ago. But when I reflected on that, basically when I was struggling, I would go and drink alcohol. So that was my go-to. And because he was seeing that when I was telling him my stories, he's like, you're not ready to change yet because you're still doing all the unhealthy coping strategies. When you're ready to change, you'll stop doing those things and then you can start putting the work in. And that's something I've always remembered. So, I mean, one of the first things I recommend people to do when they're struggling is, first of all, you need to understand some of your unhealthy coping strategies. And if it's alcohol, if it's gambling, if it's drugs, whatever it may be, you need to stop that if you want to change. And if you're not stopping it, you're not ready to change. You're not even ready to put the work in. Now, that being said, I would say all the tools I got taught at the time, they did stay with me. So although I wasn't ready to implement them there and then, as years went by, I was like, oh, the penny drops and change starts to happen. And that's what happened to me. I almost had a light bulb moment when I was working alongside Ollie Ollerton and he was doing a talk. I used to drive him around and he was talking about, he calls it the purpose pyramid. I call it the relationship triangle. Kind of took it off him, but definitely his concept that I got from him. And he asked himself 3 questions with things in your life. And he says, does it add value to your life? Does it help other people? And do you enjoy it? Put something in the middle of that triangle. Ask yourself those 3 questions. And for me, put alcohol in. Do you enjoy it? Well, you can fool yourself that you enjoy it, but truth be told, no, it doesn't make you feel good. It's not good for your health. Hangovers don't feel nice, and sometimes you make bad decisions off alcohol. So actually, truthfully, the truthful answer to that is I didn't enjoy it. Did it help me? Absolutely not. Did it add value to other people? No. So it's 3 no's. So it was that simple. When I was sat listening to him talking, I'm like, wow. It was just one of those light bulb moments came on. And that was me. That was the end of alcohol that never came into my life again, just because I just need to ask myself those 3 questions if you ever think about it again. So you have to, again, it comes into self-awareness. People they're not even aware sometimes of some of their unhealthy coping strategies. And if you're not aware, how do you change them? Sometimes people aren't even aware that they're struggling. They don't know that they're agitated that day until someone cuts them off on the road, and then all of a sudden they're losing their temper, But if you were okay, you wouldn't lose your temper in that way. So again, the importance of actually checking in with yourself is so important, and that has a massive effect on organizations when all your employees are doing their own work on themselves. I'd be really interested how you separate well-being and performance, and as I'm sure you believe as well, but they're directly interlinked. But you can perform and not be well. There's plenty of high-performing people that really struggle in the background. And unfortunately, when you put your whole identity into something, you can excel at that thing, but that thing's going to come to an end at some point.
Yeah.
And then what are you left with?
And I would argue that would you call it high performance? Would you call it high performance? You said people can perform really well when they've got stuff going on, and they're not maybe managing or maybe they have got bad coping mechanisms in place. But if they were to put good coping mechanisms in place and sorted that stuff outside of those kind of well-being bits, then that's when high performance happens. You can perform, but if you're not putting these well-being bits, better mindset, better stress management, better exercise, lifestyle stuff, if you're not doing that stuff for yourself, your output is probably not as good as if it was if you had those things.
I would agree and disagree. I would say there's plenty high performers out there that do all the wrong things in the background as well. I think we see that with some of the legends of many sports. And then, they talk about the GOAT in UFC, John Jones, but lives an incredibly unhealthy lifestyle outside of that sport. I mean, I'm not massively into football, but you think of some of the legends of football, and then I guarantee you could probably link that to some poor behaviors off the field. They were still high performers, some of the greatest of all time. Now, for me, when I think about that, okay, that's great for that organization, but it's not great for the individual.
Or the team.
Or the team on the whole. Yeah. It can affect the team, definitely. I think a lot deeper than that, to be honest. And I don't think that's good enough. Like, I think of life as a bit bigger than that, than just about excelling at one thing. So, you might be the best at what you do in that organization, but are you the best husband or wife at home and the best father to your children? Are you comfortable in your own skin? Do you actually know your purpose and your identity? Because if you don't, the cracks will start to form as life goes on. Which is why, for me personally, I think your purpose has to be something outside of this kind of materialistic world, because everything can be taken away from you. So if you're kind of holding on to your identity and purpose in something of this world, then believe you me, it can be taken away from you at any time. And then what? And that's where faith comes in.
I see that. Again, I got 2 questions there. One, which is a personal question: what is your purpose?
Well, my purpose in life would be to try and glorify God in all that I do, and do that through serving others, through loving God, through loving others. I think we're called to serve one another, including people that we don't necessarily agree with and get on with. So that would be my purpose, in a deeper sense. Yeah.
And then, I just thought it'd be interesting to hear it from you, knowing all the stuff you've kind of gone through that journey. But then the bit for the takeaways, how then do we help people? Because I see people struggling with purpose, and then without that purpose, you can see misdirection, not knowing what to do, how to do, value alignment. And I see it all the time. This is where I can agree with you in regards to, like, the high performers who only focus on one thing but forget that actually they are a husband or they are a wife or they have got kids or they've got a life for themselves and their health and well-being and longevity. Those things get lost because all they care about is the number in their bank account or the sales number or the wherever it might be, right?
Yeah.
And so then how are you helping people understand that purpose? How are you going to get or identify that purpose?
Yeah, and what you're saying there about the money and things like that, I mean, I would look at those as kind of the worldly things that we could fall into. The issues with that, it's never enough. It's never enough. Like, you think you're going to be happy when you get to that stage in your career. It won't be enough.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're going to be happy when you've got X amount of money in your bank account. It won't be enough, because at that point, you're probably surrounding yourself with people that have far more than that in their bank account. It's just never enough. And that's what keeps coming to me when I'm talking to people that are chasing these things. And when you're talking about, you can perform at one things, but the other things you're not paying attention to. And that goes back to that 4-burner approach, James Clear talks about. And there is a sacrifice with everything. And I do understand that. If you want to excel in your coaching right now, there's going to be times where that burner really need turned up. And if that burner's turned up, then the burners on the other things will be turned down. And that comes back to what we spoke about at the start about the importance of communication. Because if you are if you're in a relationship, then it's really important you communicate in that relationship that, look, I'm going to be turning the burner up. My work burner is going to be up here. Mm-hmm. This is why, these are my goals, but this is the end date to that burner being up. Hold me accountable to that. And then that's going to come down and we're going to come up here. And also during that process, on the weekend, on a Saturday, I'm going to have a Sabbath from my phone. I'm going to put my phone away for 24 hours. That burner's down, our burner's up. But understand, on Monday, it's that way. And just that communication alone, you can deal with that. So that's how you can kind of do that. And I don't believe in work-life balance. I just don't think it's ever 50-50-50. Like it doesn't work like that, because if it's like that, then you're not growing in any area. So there's always a sacrifice to be made. And I understand that. But with regards to purpose, so again, I mean, we talk about the pillars of well-being, and I've said to you previously that spirituality, people put that in there and they're kind of a bit whimsical when they talk about it. But I think spirituality is the foundation of those pillars, because that's what builds the purpose. That's where you've got to build upon that. And if that crumbles, then it can all crumble. And for me, I guess if I was talking in the secular environment and I'm talking about how do you find purpose, then, well, I would say to you, well, what are your core values? Mm-hmm. So if we were to have this discussion now, like, well, what are your core values at the minute?
My core values are to enjoy my time here. It's have a good time, laugh, be with people, to work hard, to put the effort in to see some success, and then friends and family.
Okay, so that's good. So things like, I'm hearing things like joy are important to you, working hard are important to you. Working hard is important. Family and friends, that's great. So I would get people to look at that and go, okay, I've recognized some core values, and then I'd get you to reflect on your last week. Okay, so does your core values affect your life in the last week? Have you been around people and had fun and had a laugh? Have you worked hard? Have you spent time with your family and friends? Have you invested that time? And what you find is with most people struggling, and this was for me, I had labels put on me when I left the military when I was really struggling. But actually, when I reflect, all it was is I was living outside of my core values. So I had core values, but I was living outside them. And if you're living outside your core values, then there's a constant pull internally. You don't feel comfortable, and that will affect you. So I'm not here to judge what your core values are, and you're not here to judge what my core values are. But what is important is that you live in your core values, because when you don't, that's when the struggle happens, and it's when you're being inauthentic. Now, as we grow in life, our core values will change. If you don't have children yet, then children aren't on there. But believe you me, when you have children, your values change. When you get married, your values change. If your faith will directly affect your values. And we all have a faith. We all believe in something. But if you don't know what that is, then again, where's your bearing? Where's your moral compass? And again, I'm not here to judge people for what their faith is or whatever, but I think it's important that you know it. I think it's important that you know where you get your moral compass from and your bearing. And if you don't know, then that's worth journeying.
I'm just writing down here compass and values, because I think we're talking about purpose, and these are the two words that come out of that: the moral compass and values. Are they for you? Are those the two things that help you align to purpose, or is there something else which you need to add to purpose, or to get that sense of purpose? Sorry,
I'm not even sure it's about. Again, if my purpose is serving others, is genuinely loving others, then it kind of doesn't matter what I do. So we've talked a bit about in the past, and I've talked about I am never like I'm a fairly relaxed person. I think it's important to work hard and to push ourselves in those things, but at the same time, I don't have these big financial goals. I don't have these big fame goals. What's important? I understand that money is important, that finances are important, but why are they important to me? So for me personally, I want to have time freedom to be able to serve my community. I believe you're in a community for a reason. Serve that community in some way, shape, or form, however that looks. So I enjoy giving my time in that way. And the more time I have, the more finances I have, frees up that time. So ideally, you want to, for me personally, I would like to work for money as little as I can, but earn maximum amount of money, which doesn't just mean I can go and buy nice things, because I don't have an interest in that. That would be outside of my value system. What it does is for me is it frees up time, which enables me to serve the community. And, we have plans in 18 months' time to move over to Canada. And the plan is not to build a business that we then have to spend every waking moment looking after. Our plan is different to that. It's to free up time to be able to serve as much as we can. There's so many people that are lost in this world. There's so many people struggling, whether it be through addictions, whether it's orphans, whether it's people that just feel lost. Like there's so much need in the world right now, and unfortunately in the world we live in, we've become so self-obsessed. It's all about what we can get. It's why I struggle in the social space. It's why I struggle in the sales space, because it becomes a self-obsessed space. And I need to make that clear, that when I talk about self-awareness, it is not self-obsession. Yes, it's important to look after our own well-being in order that we can give out. But at the same time, I made the mistake of, when I got into the well-being, when I really focused on my own well-being, is I'm like, right, okay, I need to do this, and this to look after myself, and kind of don't touch me until I've done those. And then my cup's full so I can flow out. And yes, I understand in my life what's important, what keeps me grounded, how best to start the day in order to give me a good running start. However, if you're so rigid with it, you create such a safety bubble that actually the second that bubble gets popped, you realize that you've lost all your resilience, because you're like, well, no, I can't do this unless I've been to the gym and I've done this and I've done that. I've done my cold water, all this stuff, and then I can serve. It's like, well, if you live like that, it doesn't take much to pop that bubble. And I found that I created that bubble at one point. I was like, I've got it together. I've sussed it out now. If I spend this amount of time looking after myself, I am really high functioning. And that might be true, but you're not that adaptable. You're not that flexible. And that doesn't fit the way to live in the world that we live in. So it doesn't actually help build resilience, although those things are important, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And one thing my brain went to as you were talking is like, wait, but when you follow that purpose, and when you have that sense of self-awareness, identity, kind of value set, moral compass, then whether it's the values and the purpose you have on this earth, or whether it's the purpose I have, or Bob, Dick, Harry, right? If you have that sense of purpose and you're living to that sense of purpose, you'll put more energy into that. And so your resilience is higher to put more out, because you're following that sense of purpose.
Yeah, while still understanding boundaries. One of the things I've found in my own life and other people's lives, that when they're doing what they're passionate about, one thing that does drop is boundaries, and you end up spreading yourself too thin, and then the struggles can happen. So we all still need boundaries in life, and what's really important is keeping people around you with similar value systems. So that, you know, that's why church is really important to me, to be around other Christians and be in fellowship with those, and to be accountable. So really accountable with my wife. If she's hearing something come out of my mouth that maybe I'm talking too much about, maybe I'm deciding to do a project or something, and maybe it's not something that's completely we're aligned to, but I'm like, it's really good money, she would keep me accountable straight away and go, hey, don't do anything that's outside of your value system for money. Boom. You know, we need people in our life to keep us accountable. That might be your partner, your wife, and it might just be someone you're really close to that holds a similar value system. I have a group of men every Monday morning around my house, 6:30 in the morning, Christian men from the age of 38 to 84. You know, we keep each other accountable every Monday morning. We speak for about 2 hours about life, and find that time to be vulnerable and help one another, and also be accountable to one another, because we're all human. No one's perfect. No one's got it all together. And we all stray away from our values at times. And that's why it's so important to have people in our life to just give us that loving nudge. You know, love, the word love isn't used enough. You know, when we love people, it's not just about telling them nice things. Sometimes it's telling them hard things, but you do it in a loving way. So that's really important. Surround yourself with people with similar value systems in that.
It's interesting going back to that. I know it's something I was going to ask you about earlier on, or just to maybe bring to awareness. When you love somebody, you do the right thing, right? Whether that is the support, whether it is the challenge. And I go back to what you need when we know the question around how you got through that struggle, and actually were you ready for it? Was his name Chris or Malcolm?
Asked me the question, Malcolm. Yeah, Malcolm asked me the question.
Malcolm. Sometimes that's a sign of love. He challenged you. Are you ready yet? And actually, sometimes that's the support you need. It's not the arm around the shoulder. And I think men, especially, sometimes it is the challenge. Like,
100%.
Are you doing this for the right reasons, or wherever that question needs to be? Maybe pull someone up on their BS. But actually, that could be a thing. And if you don't have one of those people or people around you who are comfortable and strong enough to do that, I think you're missing out on an area there.
And again, that's super important. And you also need to be honest with yourself at times. And I remember a really hard moment for me I'm trying to think how long I've been out. 10 years ago, when I was doing the therapy with horses. I remember we were sat down and we had these workbooks you go through, and it was the attributes of victim mentality. Never once had I thought of myself as a victim. In fact, I was like, ugh, no, I don't like that word. And I was reading some of the attributes to victim mentality. I was like, oh no, that's me. I think I'm a victim. Hit me right between the eyes. That was a hard lesson. I was like, this needs to change. And there's a lot of people walking around with victim mentality. And it is really unhealthy. And that is, sometimes I talk about the difference between guilt and shame. And, the difference is guilt's actually not necessarily a bad thing. Guilt is telling you that you've done something outside of your value system that you want to correct. You want to ask for forgiveness. You want to apologize. You want to change that behavior. So that's a good thing, because it's promoted a healthy change in your life. But shame is where you believe you are that thing. That is so destructive. If you've done something bad in your life, which we all have, we've all made mistakes, and then you start to believe you are that mistake, that changes how you live your life, how you see yourself, and how you see the world every day. That is so destructive. So really important that we recognize if we fell into victim mentality, we need people around us, like say, in love, to go, hey, like, buddy, this isn't healthy for you. Like, this needs to change. And that's a hard process. It's not an overnight process. But if you don't recognize it, you're not going to get change. So again, it comes back to being able to find these spaces for vulnerable conversation, to build self-awareness and go, hold on. And that's why I like group work, because when people open up, it's like someone will be listening going, oh, that's me too. You don't even necessarily need to speak. You've just recognized it. Or you've seen somebody say something that kind of, you're like, oh, all they do is moan about life or moan about the problems. And then you realize, hold on, so do I. So you see it in someone else and go, that's not actually very healthy. Oh, okay, I need to change myself. And that's why group work can be powerful, as long as it is facilitated well. Because what you can fall into the danger of and I've seen happen, is facilitating group conversation where everyone can become a victim and go, hold on, listen to my story, listen to my story, listen to my story, poor me. And
Pounds as well.
we've got to be so guarded of that. And I don't have time for that. I have time for vulnerability. I have time for compassion, but we're not here to create a group of victim mentality people.
Yeah. And I think, I can easily see that space just compounding into, we're all victims. Listen to me, my woes are worse, my woes are worse, because they're just trying to one up each other, right? But actually,
Yeah,
it's got
100%.
to be challenged on those mindsets.
And I see it more and more now, even when people are trying to sell a story. I mean, part of, I guess, a hook of advertising my previous career in the Royal Marines is a hook for people being interested in me.
We used it, right?
Yeah. So, and black belts in a couple of martial arts, we have these different hooks, but I see now a lot of people doing hooks in maybe trauma stories, but it's so heavily based on talking about their trauma. It's like, hold on, like, should we not be talking about more about how you've come out of that and where are you now? Because if you're still in it, when we're trying to help people in things, if we're talking from a lived experience, I really try and live off the rule is, don't try and help somebody with something you're in. You've got to be a couple pages ahead. You've got to have come out of that thing in order to show the pathway to someone else to come out. But if you're in this space and you are still dealing with all the same issues you were dealing with previous 10 years ago, and again, people might hear me wrong in this, they might disagree with me, but how are you going to show people the way out if you've never found the way out? And if your story every single time is about trauma, I mean, I've shared a story there about who got me to join the Royal Marines and what happened to him. And that's a real story. I don't live in that trauma though. It's a lesson I learned from that began me searching. It turned into a positive in the fact that I then found out who I was in the future. And so yes, these pivotal moments shape our life, and we've had many more traumatic things happen as a family since then. But don't live in those things. Like live in the gratitude. I heard something recently about life's in parallels, and there's always tough things going on in people's lives. There's always things going wrong. My boiler broke, we mentioned this morning, but there's always so many things to be grateful for. They're both happening at the same time. Which track do you want to be on? That's a choice, which one you want to focus on. Both are real and both are happening. So we're not just pretending those things aren't happening, but which one do I want to focus on? And I'm going to focus on gratitude. I'm going to focus on what I have, because especially where we live, we have it really good, really good. You're sat in your home now. I'm sat in my home now. We have electric, we have food in our cupboards. Our health hopefully is pretty good. Our family's health hopefully is pretty good. We've got it good. Like, go travel the world. If you're struggling, go travel the world and see people that don't have it so good, and you're gonna have a whole new perspective on life.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to be on that positive outlook. But I think people struggle with that so much.
Why do you think they do?
Because I don't think they, maybe it goes back to that point. I don't think they've really seen hardship, and so the hardship they've seen, that's what they feel to be hardship. And I guess to them it is, but maybe the comparison culture is not helping.
Yeah, I think everyone's faced hardship. I think it does come down to, again, of a lack of knowing who they are and why they're here.
Yeah, it's interesting. Going back to the purposing and this, your views on, because when I do coaching, I think vision is a big part of success, whatever you want to define success as. But for me, it fits into purpose and values. The compass, I think, obviously, it's not something which I've used before, and it'd be interesting to see, because obviously I'm not a Christian. I have a belief, but I'm not Christian. How that maybe plays into my future. But where do you think vision or goal setting fits into purpose, identity, and self-awareness, success? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe what's your views on the word success?
So the definition of success for people changes all the time. So I remember when I was 2000, I think it was 16, I was on my PT course around that time. And I remember speaking to someone there who was a two-time Olympian. And they said, what would make you happy? What would bring you success? And at the time, I was really passionate about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, if I won a major tournament, that's me. That's success to me in life. That's success. Now, bearing in mind, I was 30, 31 then, something like that. So I signed up for the Pan Ams in New York. I went out and I won it. Now, they said to me, when I said about that would bring me that success to me, they said, all you're going to think if you ever did that, and they believed I could do it, was what's next? What's next? And when I won that and stood on the podium, that was one of the first thoughts that came to my mind. What's next? I'm whatever age I was, 32, when I won it. It's like, hold on, what's next? I've still got the whole rest of my life to go. And this is the danger of going, well, this is success to me. Like, life is so much greater and bigger than that, which is why, yes, goal setting is important because it helps with growth. And I have no problem with goal setting. I have goals. I have goals for today. I have goals for this week. I have goals for the next year or so. But again, I kind of break everything down. Like, why? Why do I have these goals? And, you know, going back to my purpose about wanting to serve others, I mean, I technically don't need anything in order to do that. You could do that with no money in your bank account, with no home. You could go off and do that. And if that's your baseline, then you're okay now. So I really struggle with kind of this striving for success because I've seen so many people reach it and then they're completely lost and completely unhappy. And I'm not saying every millionaire is miserable, but I certainly know a lot of millionaires that are struggling. Why is that? Because they've been successful financially, they've been successful in their business, they might even be successful in their marriage and their family, but something's still missing. So success to me, you really, again, it comes down to knowing who you are, why you're here, thinking outside of yourself. Again, that's a me thing, isn't it? It's to say, oh, what can I get? What can I get from this world? And you will always fall short on that. I feel like that will never bring that deeper meaning and purpose. So again, I'm not saying that you can't reach success in your different industries. Of course you can achieve those goals. It's important to have direction if that's what you mean by vision. I do think it is, but also we need to be flexible and adaptable because, you know, I look at, well, I've learned so many times in life, and I'm sure you have already, things change. I've had plenty of goals and plans, and then life has come, smacked me in the face. Something's happened that's changed my direction. And I just always look at God's plans are greater than mine, but God's plans are always what's best. So trust in him, which is why it's just so important to live in our values every day. And he'll give me the strength to deal with today. And I need to think less about tomorrow. And I need to think more about today. What's my purpose for today? You know, I was very aware today that me and you were going to spend some time together. Okay, so let's focus on that. Let's see what, yes, it's important to plan, like I've said, for the future, but be present with today, and God will give you the strength for today. And I think there's a danger of trying to be too over prepared and planning. That being said, it is important to do those things. I think it's important to be financially wise. So look ahead, you know, if that's going to be if financial freedom is one of your goals, well, that takes planning, doesn't it? You know, so I'm not sure I've answered your question there, but it always kind of scares me a bit when people mention the word success. I'm like you could work for the next 20 years for that, and you're still going to feel like there's a void.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I agree, and I said you've seen it in sport. You see it in sport all of the time, right?
Yep.
Tyson Fury was a really good example of that. When he beat Klitschko, fell off the cliff because he then achieved his success. He achieved his vision at whatever age he was, and so I understand that. So but then I go, well, if you've aligned your purpose, you've done your self-awareness, and you've aligned your purpose, you've aligned your values, and then go, okay, with this in mind, what does my vision need to be? What do my goals need to be?
Yeah.
Success is the success of completing those goals and completing those things, but they're to a bigger thing.
Yeah. So, for example, like I said, I'm quite involved in church, and I want to be more involved in church. So for me, Bible college was important to me. So a couple of years ago, I'd signed up for Bible college. So on top of work, I was doing a Bible college qualification, which I've just finished. Now, to achieve that, I had to make sacrifices. Now, I'm a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Not many black belts stop at black belt. However, for time freedom, because like I said, my wife lives in Canada, so I'm here with my daughter. My daughter's mum sadly passed away last year. So I had to fully commit my time to when I'm here to my daughter, to my work, and then I took on Bible college. So they were commitments for the future. I want to put in time now for my daughter, for her future. I wanted to put in time to Bible college because that affects my future. For me, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's a hobby. It's fun, ticks lots of boxes, but I could easily sacrifice it because I have no intentions of dream of this success of being a world champion. I'm in my 40s. So I put it down. Not many people can do that because I see so many people, and I'm not knocking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think it's a fantastic sport. I'll probably go back into it at some point in my life. But I see people leave the military and you're all searching for community and identity. So come and join this. And then all I see is them change literally their identity from being a Marine, someone in the military, into, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. And that's my life. And that's all well and good. It can be, but then what happens when you're injured? And there's a good chance you're not going to make a living off that. And they've just moved one identity to the other, but it's in something else that can be taken away or that can end. And I just didn't hold enough identity in it. So I could put it down because there were bigger things. There were more important things.
So then I think it's a really great place to begin to finish and round this up. But so then how do you help people achieve that? How do you help people find their identity, which isn't attached to a thing?
Yeah, brilliant. So you've just got to find them the space of this honest, open conversation and searching. I cannot make anyone become a Christian. I cannot give somebody their values. I cannot give someone their purpose. I can't give anybody anything like that. But what I can do is open up conversation. And the art of coaching, get a mentoring, is to speak less. It's to ask the right open questions and to get people processing. And we need them to do that more. The problem is a lot of people now get up in the morning, sigh, jump in their car, go to work hard, come home, stick on the TV, eat some food, go to bed. At what point in that did they check in with themselves? What point of that did they think a little bit bigger than their day job or whatever they were doing? We don't often take that time. Addictions don't get spoken about enough. And I do think that's something I'm growing passionate about speaking about. And I'm probably going to be more public about speaking about in the future of addictions. And I'm not just talking about addictions in the case of alcohol and drugs, but mobile phones. For men, it's other things, whatever it may be, you put it next to addictions, but these things are just taking up people's lives. And they're not actually being present, and they're not actually thinking bigger of why am I here? That's a pretty important question to ask yourself. Why am I here? And if you don't have an answer to that, why are we not searching that? Because we're here for a finite amount of time, and we chase the things of the world, what the world believes is important: power, money, status. None of that brings fulfillment or happiness, and all of it can be taken away. And you can't take any of it to the grave. And then what? So have honest, open conversations with people, get them to ask themselves these questions, and then let them begin their own journey. Big thing for me was when you're searching, seek the answers. And then it comes to a point is you have to accept the answers you found. And that's what happened in my Christian walk. I searched, found some answers, and I accepted the answers I found. And then live in that. You know, people, there's coaches and people that do what they do that go out and preach, but they're not even practicing it. Then there's people that practice it, and then there's people that live it. Believe you me, the people that live what they preach, they're the people I guarantee you're attracted to and you want to be around them and that seem authentic. It's because they are authentic. It's because they're living what they preach. You can walk, you could knock on their, you could walk in through their front door and they'll be doing what they're telling you to do, you know, in front of wherever they are, whatever environment they're in, they'll be doing what they say. Now, they're not perfect. We all make mistakes, but they'll be living in their value system. That's important.
Agreed. I have one last question. Talking about identity, you spoke about finding that identity, I guess, and changing it and having those questions. How and when did you do that? When you reflect back, because your identity wasn't a Marine. At what point did you question yourself, and who, how, when did you change that? And
yeah. So I guess I didn't realize I held identity as being a Marine until I left the Marines, and then I was like, oh, hold on. And then I began searching, and I had no idea of my identity, of who I was. But I was on this faith journey. I would say one of the things that happened to me was I kind of had I basically went back to my childhood and asked myself, what was I passionate about when I was a child? Like when the world was less influential on me. And I really I was an empathetic child. I had a compassion for other people. And actually, when I reflect, I did believe in God. I might not have known who God was, but I definitely believed in something bigger than myself. And I was like, okay, so that's who I was naturally kind of made to be until the world started to kind of corrupt me. So that's a process of breaking habits and changing my lenses on how I see the world, how I see myself. And then I would say it was only 6 years ago where I truly, truly began living what I believed and living in my purpose. And the big key thing to that was completely quitting alcohol. And through that, lots of different things start to change in your life. And I was truly living in what I believed, which gave me the confidence to speak in what I believe.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. We've taken some really great detours throughout this.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've got another session to talk about a lot of other bits. But I appreciate your time, Sam. Thank you ever so much for sharing and just giving me this kind of 55 minutes worth of gold and insight and lessons and feelings as well, and like being able to share the grief and the challenges. So I really appreciate you for doing that for me and for the people listening. Thank you so much.
No, absolute pleasure. I really appreciate your time and all you're doing. You know, I know I'm not someone that's coming on that's going, this is the science behind this and these are the exact things to do. I'm kind of a bit more general in some things, but I appreciate you just listening to maybe what I've learned from my life experiences and what I try and apply in my day to day. So thanks for having me.
No, thank you. No, I think sometimes the journey you go through, you learn, and I feel like you've done so much reflection. I think this topic around self-awareness is the perfect topic conversation to have, right? So yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. And this is the last one before Christmas, everybody. So I hope you have a nice break from me. Have a lovely Christmas, and I will see you on the other side. Sam, stay where you're at. Take care. Bye.
Right.